Hi, Erwin. You are involved in the world transformation on a large scale. For you, what is the major issue right now on the planet?
I would say consciousness. It seems strange because that's an idea, seems rather philosophical and theoretic. But if you take consciousness as the ground for our values, and which are in turn the ground on the basis of which we look at the world and we act in the world, then consciousness is really what determines, what defines who we are and what we do. Now, when we have to change in this world, when there's a transformation coming, then the question is, do we know how we act? Do we really realize the consequences of our actions? And that calls for a more profound, more enlarged consciousness, so that we embrace the totality of our situation on this planet. That's why I say we need to develop a more embracing consciousness.
What are those new values who appear to be relevant right now?
We have to expand our vision. We have solidarity, we have relationships within a family, yes. Also within an enterprise, within a small community, within a town. We have learned to expand this to a whole region. We have learned to expand it also to nations. In Europe, we are moving past the nations into the idea of a European continent. And this kind of expansion needs to grow, continue to the planetary level, because we are completely interdependent. Information is flowing without borders. Interactions are flowing, goods are flowing. But our ideas, our thinking is still very much limited. They're not really tribal anymore, but they are very much national and ethnic still. And so we need to continue this development, because we are a planetary species in terms of our interactions, but we are still a rather local species, a multiple local species in terms of our thinking.
And this enlargement of the awareness of each to others can perhaps develop a flat world. So there a value which seems very important is unity, of course, but with the respect of diversity. Can you explain how we can link unity but still have a kind of diversity which is very important for the resilience and the...
Well, imagine a system which consists only of one kind of part, where everything is the same. This would not be a living system. Yes. Even the smallest organism has multiple parts which interact. These are already a system that's multicellular, even if it's a cell, has this diversity. And of course, in the human body, we have trillions of cells, and they constitute these thousands of organs and organ systems, and they all have their own functions, but the functions are coordinated. The entire system is coherent. So this coherence is what we need to find on the global level. If we expand our vision from the local, we don't expand our identity and make it global. We find our place within the global system.
That is very important, because it means that each culture has its own meaning. Each culture has its own importance. For example, Chinese have some kind of genius that American don't have, and vice versa. And each country, each culture may have a place then.
Well, we need to develop the idea of coherence. Coherence is not sameness. Coherence means being so tuned to each other that one part corresponds to another part. And they together can maintain the system in which we live. So we need to tune together the genius of Chinese for production, but also for the additional culture of finding a deeper sense, a deeper harmony. They are looking for harmony in all the Asian cultures, together with the American sense of practicality, for the European sense of tradition, which is all the time being updated to a form to apply to a new world. All these geniuses have to be tuned together. We need to develop a world that is coherent. The natural world is coherent. They all fit into each other. There is no waste in the biosphere. Everything is used, cycled, and recycled. Humanity has lost its coherence, especially in the last 100, 200 years.
Does that mean that we perhaps move from a Westphalian way of thinking the politics to a new kind of base for international relation?
Well, in politics, like in all other spheres of life today, there are needs, there are great needs for transformation, for change. Because politics is still based on hierarchies, on local hierarchies. People are in command, there's a next level of command, and then finally the people are exposed to those decisions. There is some feedback because after all, the people in democracies elect their politicians. Yes. But once they're elected, then they are really subject to those decisions that are made on this higher level. Whereas today we have the means, through the internet, through the telecommunication systems that we have, to have multiple feedbacks. We can connect with each other. We can understand what is happening and try to work together with each other. So instead of having a top-down hierarchy, we could have a multi-level system where information is flowing from the top to the bottom, but from the bottom also moving up to the top. And politicians have to understand, if they want to become relevant to our times and meaningful as leaders, that they do not lead by commanding. They lead by understanding, by providing information, and by allowing the electorate, the people, to come to conclusions and to find the way that they want to move forward.
What is the most important for you, the most important action we should develop now?
Well, in general, I think Gandhi is right. The most important action is to change ourselves so that we become the change that we want to see in the world. And this changing ourselves means, actually, is what we have said a moment ago, is the change in consciousness. We have to develop a vision that's appropriate to our times. If we have this larger vision, then we will act in light of reality in which we live. Imagine if somebody today had the vision of the Middle Ages, of the knights. It was perhaps a beautiful vision, but it's no longer applicable. He would not be able to find the way to act today. And yet we have this lag. We are still acting on the way that the past century has told us to act, has developed in those days, but we are now acting in a different world. We have to update ourselves, just like you update your computer systems all the time by downloading the updates. We have to download from this common field, the Akashic field, if you like, constantly the vision, the values that allows us to be practical, to be a contributing factor, a positive agent of change.
What is those news ID that we have to download? Of course, ideas have always evolved. We was in a feudal world, and then in an industrial world, and the management have appear and develop, and the idea of democracy, liberty, equality, fraternity. Then we had new values. We had the development of the large mechanism and everything. And now on the use of energy, for example. And now, what are the key ideas around this change from a mechanistic point of view to a more systemic, holistic point of view? What are the key ideas?
I would say one idea, And it will be surprising for people who believe in science, but I think it comes from science, and our people also believe in business and in politics. This one idea is love. Because what we know from science today, that this world is strongly interacting. It's entangled. That means all things affect all other things. Now, if we act in this way, that we are truly feel ourselves part of an entangled, interactive, co-evolving world, then we have to relate to others in light of that. Now, the way we relate to others, when we want to really enter into their mindsets, when we really want to enter into their spirit and co-evolve with them, and we relate with them with the idea of love, of togetherness. Today, as they say, oneness. These are all ideas that used to come from the periphery, used to be considered esoteric. But if it's really true that we are all macroscopic quantum systems that are entangled with each other, which seems to be really the case that we get from the new biology, the new physics, obviously, but also in psychiatry and psychology, we find these interactions on multiple levels. You can even measure how the brain of one person, the brain waves are interacting with others when they get into connection with each other. I think we have to learn that we are part of one species, and that species is our community. And as good members of our community, we have to love the other members, otherwise we take apart that community.
Thank you very much. So the future of mankind is love. I think it could not be a better way to finish this interview. Thank you very much, Erwin.
Thank you very much.